It's time for Coach's Corner on KCCR, presented by the South Dakota Office of Attorney General, Division of Consumer Protection. Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com is also brought to you by Bank West, Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota, Todd's Electric, Owyhee Federal Credit Union, Shane's Pharmacy, Missouri River Dentistry, CHS River Plains, Edward Jones Financial, Ferding Electric, First Dakota National Bank, Gales Gas, and Lamb Motors. And now, your host for Coach's Corner, John Winkler.
And a good evening as we welcome you here inside the KCCR studios. John Winkler with you on this Wednesday evening. Another edition of Coach's Corner. We've got plenty to talk to and about as we'll talk with Jim Wedin, the head coach of the Owyhee Capitals, as well as also talking with Joey Fisher, the head coach of the Stanley County boys basketball team as they start the Jones County tournament tomorrow. Also talk with Kirk Bebot, the head coach of the Pierre girls basketball team, and we will wrap up the show with the Chris Fosham and Mendel Miller coaches of the Stanley County girls basketball team. So lots to go to, lots to talk about, and we will talk with those coaches next. We'll return and talk with Coach Wedin after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
During the summer months, residents may encounter someone at their door looking to sell a product or a service, especially with the recent storms and flooding. The Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division offers these tips. Avoid high-pressure sales tactics. Check for ID, such as a revenue license and proof of insurance. Ask for references and compare prices with local businesses. If you have questions regarding a door-to-door sale, contact the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986 or at consumerhelp@state.sd.us.
No one likes to have electrical problems, but when they happen, call Todd's Electric at 223-2518. With over 30 years of experience, Todd's Electric can handle any type of electrical problem, whether it's residential, commercial, or agriculture. Their knowledgeable staff knows and understands the importance of your home, business, or ag facility and are prepared to help. That number again is 223-2518. Todd's Electric Service, serving the Pierre-Fort Pierre area. Todd's Electric Service, the line to power. It takes hard work to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than just sports. It also goes for your financial goals. You work hard for your money. You deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. Your local Edward Jones Financial Advisor can help. If your investments aren't getting you closer to the win, visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Pierre area Edward Jones office for a financial review. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, so y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please.
This is Coach's Corner on your home for the Pierre Governors, KCCR, and online at kccrradio.com.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Jim Wedin of the Owyhee Lady Capitals as they get set for two big games coming up this weekend, back for the first time in 2026 after not playing the first two weekends as they take on Brookings on the road as well as also Watertown on the road as well. And Coach, you've got 2 weeks, and obviously you've had some 14U games in there. You have some JV games in, but no varsity games. How key or how good has this 2-week break been for you guys, or 2-weekend break for the girls going into now the stretch run of 2026?
Well, the first week was kind of nice. It gave us an opportunity to work on a few things that we needed to work on. But now the girls are getting pretty restless. They're ready to play and ready to compete again. So practices are not quite as enthusiastic as they were a week ago, but we're getting through it, and girls are ready to play.
Well, and two big opponents, Brookings, who you're looking to try and get some revenge on from earlier in the season. Watertown, you're going to try and sweep after winning both games at home at the end of December, and now playing them here in mid-January. Like you said, it got to be pretty antsy for these girls ready to get to play. And then it's not just that they're playing, it's who they're playing that really probably makes them pretty anxious about ready to get back on the ice.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got some really tough games ahead of us. Brookings, they always put together a good program and really competitive hockey. So that's a game that we're going to have to work really hard at. And but I think the girls are ready for it. And then Sioux Falls, they're quite a force this year. They've got a lot of really strong players on that team, and so yeah, we've got the tough part of our season is up ahead of us for sure.
So we'll go back a little bit of ways. The first time you guys played Brookings, it was on the road, and in girls hockey, everybody plays each other 3 times. So some teams you're playing 2 on the road and 1 at home. Some you're playing 2 at home and 1 on the road. And this game against Brookings, obviously you go look back at the final score, and I don't think it's indicates that the Capitals, and if you look at that first period and the shots on goal in that first period, that more indicates than that, especially in that first, that this was, the score discrepancy was what it was at 5-0, but really, at that point, in the first period, you guys were probably the better hockey team, just some unfortunate breaks. So the momentum or the confidence that these girls can have probably is a lot more than maybe a team that wouldn't get blown out by a 5-0 score, had no chance. You guys had a lot of good chances early on in that game to keep that very closer and possibly win that game too.
Yeah, we did, and I think it's important to note that we were missing a few players during that first game, and so we were kind of moving some players around to try to fill those gaps, and I think we've got that taken care of now, and hopefully we'll have everybody healthy and nobody out with illnesses this go around.
Yeah, and because you guys had played, I think at that point it was 9 games. On the 9th game, it was the first time that you had everybody dressing and playing, whether they were hurt, whether they were out, sick, whatever it might have been. I think the first 8 games in entirety did not have full strength of the Hawaii Capitals, and you haven't even played that many games still. You still have over half the season left to go. So the fact that we are just now seeing this team at full strength also is helpful going down the stretch run.
Yeah, for sure. Those first, that first, I'd say, quarter of our season, we were doing a lot of musical chairs, moving players around and trying out new positions and trying to fill in those gaps as best we could.
Going in, and again, we're talking with Coach Jim Wadeen of the Hawaii Capitals. They take on Brookings Friday nights and then Watertown Saturday afternoon. And, obviously the schedule is always going to be what it is, and you can't really change it, but I got to think a little bit of it, too, is kind of nice that you're playing a team like Brookings, and you mentioned how they always are very competitive. They have a good program. Everybody, you get up for those games, and not taking anything against Watertown, but you 2-0 against Watertown, that if it's flip-flopped, there's that possibility of maybe girls thinking about Saturday night and playing Brookings instead of Friday night against Watertown. You get that Brookings game in, then you can focus solely on Watertown without any other distractions. It's kind of probably got to be nice how the schedule falls this weekend to see something like that.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer to go up against Brookings in this first game when the girls are fresh and we can kind of practice up to that game against Brookings. But Watertown is a really solid, strong team as well, and they demand a lot of respect, and they've got some really good players and a really good coach leading them. So we can't take either one of these games for granted, for sure.
Watertown's at 5-7 right now. The Rangers and the Sioux Falls Flyers at 10-1. The Capitals sitting in third place at 8-2, and again Watertown being 5-7. They're the number 4 seed right now, and I know that we're still a month away from the end of the regular season and a month and a half before the state tournament, but it becomes very important to kind of stay in maybe one of those top 3 seeds or even go into the number 2 seed for that first round matchup. Again, not that it's that's a definite you're going to win by just showing up and playing a hockey game, but those matchups, and you've seen it in years prior where the 4-5 matchup is definitely the best game of the day and very, very difficult to win, where those other top 3 teams, again, not that it's a shoe-in to get wins, but a lot of teams will say, I want to stay out of that 4-5 matchup. So these games are always important against Watertown on Saturday. It's important to keep them 4 or 5 games behind you and 10 points behind you, so you have that ground to make sure that you don't start falling into those spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Big difference in those first games, whether it's the first through third seed or that, like you were saying, John, that 4th, 5th is that's a tough matchup for sure.
And again, we'll have coverage of both the games this weekend, Friday in Brookings at 6 o'clock, 1 o'clock on Saturday against Watertown, both games on the road. Let's talk a little bit about this team again. And one of the fun things that I've noticed and really seen about this team is that the ability to score is there for almost everybody on the ice. And I say almost everybody. The girls that aren't scoring still have the ability to be scoring as well. You have Dakota McIntyre that leads with 8 goals, but Kirsten Miller, Brenna Ullman, Mallory Learcamp, Micah Buffalo, Aubrey Stewart, Addison Hunsley, Emily Nemec, all have multiple goals so far in the season. That doesn't even include another 3 girls that have 1 goal so far. That this is a team that just because one girl isn't scoring, that doesn't mean all of them can't score. It can be a different girl just about every single night that can score and help win games for this Capital team.
Yeah, and that was a big push for us on the coaching side of things this year. Is trying to build goal scorers. Last year with Briley Kafka, she was our primary goal scorer, and the girls kind of leaned on her for her skill sets there. But now without Briley this year, it was really important to us that we find multiple goal scorers to make up for that difference. And the girls have really stepped up and taken on that challenge seriously.
And it's got to be nice, too, when you're looking up and down the lineup and trying to figure out what forward group to send out or even some defensemen to send out, that you're not saying, well, if we need a goal, we have to go directly to this line. It can be any of those lines that can score. So it can be, if that one group is tired or the second group is tired, that third group who hasn't been on the ice in the rotation of it all, you feel just as good about them scoring as you do with the other 2 groups.
Yeah, with the girls we've got right now, I feel confident that any one of them can score a goal. They still have their strengths and their weaknesses in different parts of the ice, and we try to capitalize on that as best we can. But yeah, right now, anytime we've got the girls out on the ice, I feel very confident that we have the opportunity to put one in the net.
Again, talking with Coach Jim Wedin here of the Hawaii Capitals. You take on Brookings Watertown as we start to wrap things up. Let's first talk about Brookings. Biggest key for the Caps to get a win against the Brookings Rangers Friday nights.
We've got to have 15 girls come out that are ready to play and ready to compete at their best level. We've got to maintain our discipline with our roles and responsibilities out on the ice, and we've got to move fast. We've got to move the puck quickly out of our zone and into their zone and get those shots on net as best we can.
And then the final question is, biggest key against Watertown. Again, win or lose Friday night against Brookings, what's the biggest key to make sure that you go 3-0 against Watertown and get that win on Saturday?
I think against Watertown, it's going to be really important that we start off strong, that we start off and really prove to Watertown that we're there to play the game, that we're there to win, and demonstrate that we're the best team. I'm afraid if we give Watertown any opportunity to get a couple goals ahead of us, they could really take advantage of that and make things extremely difficult for us. So a strong start against Watertown is going to be really important for us.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. It is good talking to you again. Looking forward to seeing this Capital team play again this weekend after having a couple weekends off and getting set. We're a month and a half away from the end of the regular month. A little more than a month away from the end of the regular season, but a month and a half away from that state tournament in Mitchell coming up the first weekend in March. But I appreciate the time. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's head coach Jim Wedin. And again, those games will be on Capital City Rock and on YouTube at Capital City Rock Sports coming up here Friday night and Saturday for the Hawaii Capitals. We'll come back with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. kccrradio.com.
During the summer months, residents may encounter someone at their door looking to sell a product or a service, especially with the recent storms and flooding. The Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division offers these tips. Avoid high-pressure sales tactics. Check for ID, such as a revenue license and proof of insurance. Ask for references and compare prices with local businesses. If you have questions regarding a door-to-door sale, contact the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986 or at consumerhelp@state.sd.us.
Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota in Pierre is proud to sponsor today's game. Whether you're in the market for a brand new Ford, Lincoln, or Toyota, or a quality pre-owned vehicle, our team is here to get you back on the road in style. From tough trucks to family SUVs, we've got the selection you need and the hometown service you deserve. Browse online anytime at CapitalCityFordToyota.com. Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota, where community drives us forward.
Building a home. It's the biggest investment most of us make in a lifetime. Not to mention it's a decision that, well, you pretty much live with day and night. The quality of the workmanship stares back at you like a reflection. It also affects the value of your investment. Choosing the right contractor is critical. Kruger Contracting is that contractor. Call 222-2523. Quality workmanship and materials completed on time. Kruger Contracting. In a word, quality. Call 222-2523.
As community bankers, BankWest employees are deeply committed to supporting local causes, growing the local economy, and creating local opportunities. At a time when you can bank anywhere, we hope you choose BankWest. We'll be your financial partner for the long haul, helping you and your community achieve financial success. BankWest. Convenient, connected, committed. Member FDIC.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now I'm playing for real.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good. What play should I call now? Maybe corner three.
He's hot. He is hot. Keep feeding that guy.
Now back to Coach's Corner with KCCR award-winning sports director John Winkler.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Joey Fisher of the Stanley County Buffaloes, who will head into the Jones County Tournament this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They open up with Phillip looking to repeat as Jones County Tournament champions. But, Coach, before we start talking about Jones County Tournament, which is always a fantastic tournament to be at, let's start talking about so far this season. 6-0 record right now heading into, 7-0 record, 6-0 record heading into the Jones County Tournament. There's a lot of really good things about this team. What's maybe the very best thing about this team to this point of the season?
You know, I would say we've just got a lot of guys that have really stepped up this year. You know, we had obviously some guys that have been returning that have been really key players for us, but you know, just the emergence of some guys, like, you know, Weston Prince, Brendan Bothwell have been great, Trevor Caldwell, Jack Deal, you know, all these other guys. You know, we had a lot of returning guys, but just these guys that are, you know, stepping up into new roles and maybe more minutes have really shined for us, you know, the first 6 games. And, you know, that's when you play as fast as we do and you are as aggressive as we are, you know, you got to have some depth. And just those guys, you know, really stepping into those roles has been great. You know, it's showing on the offensive and defensive end as well.
You know, that's one of the big things too. Is Eddie Duffy and Paxton Deal have been getting theirs every single game, and even in some games haven't necessarily scored to what everybody thinks they're going to score every single night. But at the same point, there's always maybe a different guy, or maybe a guy a couple of games here and another guy a couple of games there, where there's different. You know, Jack Deal with the 20-point game at one point this season. You know, Trevor Caldwell has been big inside because he's a big kid. You get a game-winning shot by someone that's not Eddie Duffy or Paxton Deal, and it's, I mean, like you said, different guys are stepping up into big-time roles for this team.
Exactly, you know, and feels like it's been a different guy every game, you know. Like Eddie kind of started us off, and then Paxton kind of finished some games, and Tegan Breitag's been awesome, you know. He had the game winner against Winter, but then, I mean, he was the one that kind of got us rolling early against McLaughlin. He got some easy ones at the rim and gave us some easy opportunities. So, you know, I think when you're that diverse and that dimensional, I mean, I think it makes you a really hard team to scout for. I think it makes you hard, and then it makes it really hard to defend as well, you know, because we've got a lot of different guys that can go and put up 20, 25 points, but they're also fine with scoring 10 and getting a win too.
Now you are 6-0, but as every coach likes to say too, there's always things that can be a little bit better. What's kind of the thing that stands out that says, all right, if we're going to take that next step as we go farther along in the season, what needs to be even better for this team going into this next part of the season?
I feel like one thing, and surprisingly enough, I don't think we've finished very well at the rim in some games. I think we've been scoring a lot of points, but we feel, as coaches and even the guys have seen it too, like we feel like we've left a lot of points out there. So, it's just doing the little bit of fundamental stuff as an experienced team. Like we want to go into teams, finish strong at the rim, and we felt like we've left some easy ones there that, could really even stretch a game out even farther or, make it a little bit more spaced out in the second half. So just, capitalizing on a couple more opportunities around the rim and, staying out of foul trouble a couple games. We've been a little bit too, foul happy. So maybe tightening a couple of those things up, I think, are going to lead to some more success for us.
Well, let's start talking about this Jones County Invitational that's coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Again, you guys won it last year, looking to repeat as those the Jones County tournament champions. So again this year, but you open up with Phillip, who of all the teams, there's 7 other teams that are there, and that's the one team that you've already seen. So the scouting reports trying to work on Phillip is still probably pretty familiar, even though it was almost a month ago now that you've played them. But you got a 74-33 win. What's the benefit of maybe starting a tournament with a team that you're familiar with?
I think it gives us a little bit of confidence, but at the same time, basketball is a weird sport. Is you come in on an off night and they knock down some shots, it might be a lot different games. So we'll still prep. We'll still go through our normal scouting report and, take away the things that they're really good at and then, try to make it really difficult for them. They're young, so they're going to come out and they're going to throw everything that they have that first game. It's the Jones County Invitational, and you go in there and your records kind of go out the window, and everybody wants to try to make it to Saturday night to play in that big time game. So just staying true to what we've done this year, and keeping to what we know is right is what we're just going to continue to do.
And I guess think that some of that of preparing for Phillip is maybe a little bit tougher than if it was any of the other 6 teams that are there, because you have not seen them. That you have to kind of stay focused on Phillip and not worry about that next game, whether it be White River or Bennett County. Again, knowing that you won by 41 the first time, to try and maybe these guys are pretty going to be locked in and focused no matter who you're playing, but maybe it adds a little bit of a little stress for the head coach to make sure these guys aren't overlooking Phillip and getting ready for that next game.
100%. We preach to our guys, one game at a time. We can't look forward 3 games down the line if it's a big time game. We got to get through the first ones before that. So, we'll direct our attention to Phillip. In the back of our minds, we might start prepping for the next game, but we don't know who's going to win that one either. That could be a really good basketball game. So we'll focus on Phillip, and then we'll probably watch the second game, and then Coach and I will put in a good game plan that we feel is beneficial, and we'll just keep trying to play our best basketball.
And that's then also going to be a help that you're playing in the 1 o'clock game on Thursday instead of the 2:30 game, so where you stand at the end of your game, knowing that you're watching the team saying, okay, if you lose, you're facing the loser of that game. If you win, and you guys are expecting to win, that you're going to face the winner of that game, which then probably does help that first initial scout of the team, because you can sit there and watch that game, be able to scout them, and the kids know too, hey, we don't know who we're going to play, but we can, after our game is done, we can sit and actually pay attention to this next game, knowing who's going to be our opponent right after that.
Yep, and that was the benefit of playing that first game last year, is we did that, and we were able to watch Crazy Horse and Phillip, and we were able to pick up on a lot of their tendencies, what they really like to do, and I think that really helped our guys. Jones County Invitational, it's nerve-wracking, man. It's a great small-town tournament that teams love to play in, and the atmosphere is great. So our guys, they were definitely excited, but you could sense the nervousness, and I felt like that really just helped kind of calm us down. We saw firsthand exactly what they wanted to do last year, and then we were able to help take some of those things away, and that obviously benefited us in the long run as we were able to win it. But it's the same thing this year. We're going to really lock in and try to break down some different things that we can do well, and hope that it's enough for us this year.
How fun was it last year to win that Jones County Invitational? Because you got to play as a player, you've been there as a coach. How much fun was it to be hoisting that championship trophy and being able to beat that team playing that Saturday night at 6 or at 8 o'clock for the championship and get the win last year.
Yeah, it was super special. Stanley County hadn't won an invitational in a long, long time, and to be able to do it with that group of guys. This is the group that I first started coaching with when they were in middle school. So, being able to do that with them and experience that was something that, nobody will ever be able to take away from us. And, the message this year is, yep, we're heading into the invitational. Guys, we got a chance to do another thing that hasn't been done. We have a chance to go back-to-back. That's something that, can't be taken away from us. So, just setting the mindset of we've got to go out and earn everything and, earn everything that we get. But we have the opportunity to really do something special again, and with this group of guys, that's something that we're really looking forward to.
And this Jones County Invitational, playing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Obviously, your ultimate goal is to get to the Sodak 16, win that game, get to the state tournament, and this is a good test of how you handle 3 straight days of a state tournament and a really good environment. Yeah, maybe and it will be a larger crowd at the state tournaments because it'll be a bigger venue, but sometimes those smaller venues and those crowds make things even more difficult and more hectic than those big arenas with the same amount of people because it's just so much louder. So it's a good test to see how Stanley County can play through 3 straight days of basketball.
For sure, that's the type of environment you want to be in. You want those packed gyms and those loud atmospheres because it just benefits you and it's going to help prep you for your ultimate goal or what you want to do this year. So I always love the invitation. It's a great atmosphere, but it gives you 3 basketball games in 3 days, and that's the ultimate goal at the end of the year is be playing those last 3 games of the year. So I think it's going to give us a great opportunity. One thing that I think will benefit us is our guys have experienced that. That's what they want to get back to, that atmosphere. That's something they remember from last year, and they want to be able to experience that again. I think that's one thing that could really help us too heading into this invitational.
We can talk with Coach Joey Fisher of the Stanley County Buffaloes as they will take on Phillip on Thursday at 1 o'clock. It's a 1 o'clock game down in Murdo for the Jones County Invitational on Thursday. They win, they play at 6:30. They would win again if they get to go to the championship just like they did last year. Be an 8 o'clock Saturday night game. You can see bracket. We'll have it posted with the preview story coming up later on tonight or into tomorrow morning, going into Thursday morning for the Jones County Invitational. But they play at 1 o'clock against Phillip. And before we start to wrap things up, maybe handicap a little bit of the rest of the field. And I'm sure some of the Kadoka, Lyman, Crazy Horse, and Jones County, you haven't played them yet, but maybe you've seen them on film for watching the team that you're looking to play at. Maybe you haven't seen them on film at all, but maybe handicap a little bit of the field and tell me who kind of stands out as a really, really good team of the other 7 teams that are in this tournament.
I think there's quite a few young teams in the Invitational this year, but, I think Lyman and Kadoka is going to be a really good basketball game. I think both of those guys could go out and compete, too. They've got some returning guys from last year mixed in with a little bit of youth. Crazy Horse shoots the ball really well. I think, if they knock down some shots, they can get hot, and they're really fundamentally sound and have a really good coach there. So I think that there's some really good basketball teams that are going to come out and be ready to compete. Jones County always plays well in their invitational. They always want to win, so they always play their best basketball in the invitational. So, I really think it's going to be a free-for-all this year, and I think the team that comes in and, does what they want to do and follows their principles, I think is going to have a really good shot this year.
All right, we'll wrap things up. Coming up, again, tomorrow, 1 o'clock is game time between Stanley County and Phillip down in Murdo. They'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, regardless of how well they do the first 2 games. Everybody plays all 3 days. There is a 7th-place consolation, 3rd, and championship game. And, again, that bracket will be with the story on our website, kccrradio.com. But to wrap things up, Coach, biggest key for 2 questions. First is the biggest key to get the win against Phillip to move on to the semifinals.
We got to finish possessions offensively and defensively, get stops and then be able to get out and push the ball. That's when we're at our best, is when we're able to get in transition and score some easy ones and then, get up into our full court stuff. And then, one thing we prided ourselves on is winning the turnover and the rebound battle this year. We feel if we take care of those 2 things, it puts us in a really good spot offensively and defensively, and we really can wear teams down doing that as well. So.
All right, then final question is biggest key for Stanley County to and again, because you guys went last year sitting at 6-0 right now, I usually only ask the question of, biggest key for success in this tournament. What's the biggest key to win this tournament again this year?
I think one of the biggest things is, just remember that moment. Don't let it get too big. There's going to be some up and down moments for us. I think if we knock down some shots early and often, it's going to give us a little bit of confidence. That's one thing we really have benefited from this year is quick starts. I think if we can get off to quick starts in all 3 games of the Invitational, it's going to put us in a really good spot because our guys do a really good job of playing with the lead and, being able to defend that. So being able to get a lead, build on it, and then just keep up our constant pressure, I think, are going to be big keys for this weekend.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. It is good talking to you again. It's been fun to follow this team to this point this season. It's going to be even more fun as the season goes along, but really fun this weekend with the Jones County Tournament. Appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this, and good luck this weekend at the Jones County Invitational.
Hey, thank you.
Absolutely. That is head coach Joey Fisher. The Stanley County Buffaloes will return with more of a Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. kccrradio.com. KCCR.
During the summer months, residents may encounter someone at their door looking to sell a product or a service, especially with the recent storms and flooding. The Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division offers these tips. Avoid high-pressure sales tactics. Check for ID, such as a revenue license and proof of insurance. Ask for references and compare prices with local businesses. If you have questions regarding a door-to-door sale, contact the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986 or at consumerhelp@state.sd.us.
Hey you. Are you at a job that is fulfilling, has good benefits to support you or a family today, and retirement goes down the road? If you just said no, listen up. CHS River Plains is hiring operations personnel, drivers, and custom applicators at several locations. These come with a knockout affordable benefit package for you and the whole family. Apply to a job with CHS River Plains and up your benefits straight up. To apply, visit us online at chsriverplains.com or stop in at one of our locations. CHS is an equal opportunity employer.
Score big on your next vehicle purchase with Lamb Motor Company in Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre. Check out their large selection of new and pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs at any one of their locations or go online to lambmotor.com. That's LAMBMOTOR.com. Or give them a call today at 800-952-2222. Lamb Motor Company of Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre.
Did you know it is important for your child to see the dentist at the time their first tooth erupt? A healthy smile begins at birth, and there are many variables, from healthy eating habits to good oral hygiene and routine dental care. Hi, I am Dr. Michelle Hofer. At Missouri River Dentistry, we enjoy working with people of all ages. Dentistry is our profession, but people are our focus. I invite families to come experience an office that uses the latest techniques and equipment to be sure you receive that healthy and happy smile. To schedule your appointments for your family, call us at 223-2021. Kids love us, parents trust us.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
You like that? You like that?
As we welcome back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Kirk Bebout of the Pierre girls basketball team as they get the week off and will get back into action next Tuesday on the road against Douglas. But, Coach, before we start talking about how this week has gone or how it will be going to finish out the week, let's go back to Saturday's game against the Washington Warriors. We didn't get a chance to talk at the postgame with the quick postgame show. What was the biggest takeaway from that game against Washington?
Well, first, Washington's really good. I mean, they have some very athletic, tall, skilled basketball players that put a lot of time into basketball. So they're really good. We knew that going in, and that they're going to present some major problems for us. With the overall size disadvantage that we're at. I mean, our center's 5'7", and they start 6 foot across the board. So, I mean, we knew there were some challenges there with that, but. Honestly, what we are focused on is getting better, and I was impressed with our girls. They just kept playing, and they understand that this is a process that we're in, and we want to use every opportunity to get better. And when you play against Washington, I don't care what happens, as long as you are working as hard as you can and not giving up and continuing to fight all the way through, that you're going to get better. So, I mean, they might not feel like it, and the score might not indicate that, but I guarantee you we got better on Saturday because of that game.
Yeah, like you said, a really, really good basketball team to go against Washington, and you had a different starter in. Jasmine Yost was out, then Jordan Kirky goes down with an injury as well. Obviously, injuries at any point of the season, any time for any girl is never fun to deal with. Right now, with the week of not having games, might come at a good time trying to get girls healthy and get them ready to go for next week and start to get the stretch run.
Well, I'm definitely thankful for a week of practice. There's no doubt about that, and hopefully that helps. I mean, to start the year, we were rolling pretty good as far as not having injuries and having everybody available. I don't know what happened over Christmas break, but we started having different things come up. But that's life, and that happens as part of the adversity of the season. So, yeah, we definitely want to use this week to get healthy. We also need to practice and have girls out there getting better. It's hard to get better if you're not actually in practice. So hopefully those girls can get back sooner than later, but, time will tell on that, and we'll obviously follow everything that we need to do. But the biggest thing with injuries for me is always those girls want to play. So, I always feel for them and just hope that they get the opportunity to do what they love.
And this week of practice probably feels a lot different than Christmas break, because you have the moratorium, so you don't have those days of practice for 4 straight days, and then you have New Year's on top of that. So things are just really hard as a coach to try and get everything that you want to do in a week. Now you actually have the full week of practice with school and the consistency. So this week probably feels, even though it's just 1 week of straight practice, probably feels a lot better than the 2 weeks that you've had without games over Christmas break.
That's a great point. I mean, even with Christmas break, when you are practicing and there's no school, so it's just a different vibe. I think, like when you go to school and you're active all day, you're kind of in a different mindset already. So I think that does help as well. So, yeah, like I said, really looking forward to just having a week of working to get better, and practice. That's really where you get better for the most part. I mean, like I said, Washington game definitely got us better, but, we know we have things to work on, and there's only one way to do that, and that's getting in the gym.
You take on Douglas next week, Tuesday, then you're at Brandon Valley the following Thursday, before then taking on Aberdeen Central with a couple of road games all in a span of from a Tuesday to a Tuesday. You're still not quite at the halfway point of this season, and would be after you get through that Aberdeen game a couple weeks from now. But as we approach the halfway point, you talk about wanting to get better every game and every practice. What's kind of been what you've seen so far that has been a big improvement from maybe the first practice to where you were on Saturday, or where you were at the first couple of days of practice this week?
Yeah, it's amazing how fast it goes. It just feels like we just started, honestly, and like we're talking about halfway point. So it definitely goes by quick. So. I think girls are getting more comfortable as far as, what we're trying to accomplish on both ends of the ball, offensively, defensively. And while we struggled to score points, watching the Harrisburg game and even watching the Washington game, we had looks. I mean, we just didn't shoot very well. So, that's part of it. We shoot a lot in practice, and I'm telling you, like, our girls shoot well in practice. So I told this to the other radio guy, like, I'm a big believer in law of averages. Emory and Molly, they're going to shoot better. I mean, they just are. And we went 0 for 6 against Harrisburg from the free throw line, and 4 for 14 or something like that against Washington. I have to think that's a little bit of an anomaly. That's not going to be the case, generally. So, at least I hope so. So. I think, it's starting to sink in as far as how we need to execute and the shots that we need to take and get, and that's steadily getting better.
Yeah, and I'll ask you this too about shooting better and being able to not get down. I've talked to some coaches before that say, after a poor free throw shooting day, he doesn't say a word about it, doesn't ever talk about it, doesn't emphasize it. Other coaches will say, I'm going to really emphasize that we didn't shoot the free throw well, or whatever, shoot the ball well. How do you handle that? Because like you said, when you watch them in practice, they're making their shots. The things are falling for them. It just hasn't fallen, especially the last 2 games for a period. And you kind of expect that at some point they will start to fall because they're good shooters. Do you emphasize a little bit more, or do you kind of back away from it? How much do you bring it up that the shooting percentage hasn't been good for the Governors?
Right. I mean, so like our first 5 games, if you want to include the Bismarck game, I thought, we did shoot pretty well, and the girls were, did really well. Won a couple games that we had to fight for and finish really strong, and I thought we performed really well against a good Spearfish team and against a good Bismarck team. So things happen. I mean, we had a couple nights where the shots weren't falling, and playing good teams, that gets magnified. So, I mean, it's just, I don't think you overemphasize it, that's for sure, because, I mean, that's life, that's basketball. You're going to have stretches and games that happen like that. So, I think about, like with layups, if we miss a couple layups and then coaches over there yelling, "You got to make your layups." I don't think that's really very helpful. They know they got to make their layups. So, but I do also think it's important that they see, hey, we missed 7 wide open 3-pointers in the first quarter and 4 free throws and a couple layups, and we missed a couple execution opportunities in the first quarter. We could have been up 20-10. That changes the whole, complexion of the game, and I think it's important for them to see that. Like, they're not really that far away. Like, a couple shots go down, we do a couple things here or there, and the whole game changes. So I think it's important for them to see that they know, like, they're really not that far off. They don't have to get that down on themselves about, a lackluster night.
Talking with Coach Kirk Beebe of the Pierre girls basketball team, they got the week off. They will play Douglas on Tuesday on the road. When you get the full week of practice here, when do you start maybe talking to the girls about Douglas, or maybe including that in practice, or do you talk anything about Douglas this week in practice and maybe wait till Monday or maybe a Saturday? When do you start talking about your next opponent now that you have as much time off as you do?
Yeah. Honestly, we just got to worry about ourselves. Like, I'm not overly concerned with any of the games we have coming up right now. I'm just worried about us getting better. So, probably not until next week, honestly. We might mention a couple things, like when we're working on it, like, here's how this relates to teams that we have coming up on our schedule, and this is why it's going to be important, because these teams do this. But, looking at our schedule, like I said, I think it's really important that we just keep the proper perspective. Yes, Douglas is a team that, struggles at times, but we can't prepare like any differently than we usually do. And then we play O'Gorman, Brandon Valley, Aberdeen Central. That's like 1, 2, and number 4 in the state. I mean, we're talking really good teams. So we can't really, we can't let the circumstances dictate our behavior. So if we're playing someone good or someone not as good, that doesn't change what we're trying to accomplish. So, when it comes to, focusing on the teams that are coming up, generally, like I said, that's always something that we touch on, but it's not something that we overly focus on. It's more about how can we get better ourselves.
And then as we start to wrap up here, for you to be able to have this week of practice again, I know you're a big fan of practice. Every coach is a big fan of practice, but to be able to have this full week, how nice is it for you to be to get the team in for a full week of practice without having to worry about games? Oh yeah, I mean, it's just a breather, catch your breath, and be able to refocus a little bit and get back to work. So yeah, like I said, I'm thankful for it, but, we also obviously have to make the most of it, because we're not going to get another break like that for the rest of the year. So it's not really a break. It's just an opportunity for us to hone in on some things we can get better at, and then make sure that we carry that forward. And final question, I always ask about the biggest key for a win, but instead this week I'm asking the biggest key for the Governors to have a successful week of practice to get better going into next week.
Oh, hard work. I mean, there's no substitute for that. There's no way around it. I mean, we can talk about, hey, we got to do this better, we got to do that, but you got to put in, you got to go in and put in the time and make that investment. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. When you're committed and you're invested, then you tend to find ways to, keep improving and translate to some wins. So we just got to put in the work, and that's all there is to it.
Coach, I appreciate the time. Good talking to you again, and we'll be talking again here shortly as we get going with games once again. But good luck coming up next week, Tuesday, against Douglas, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, appreciate you.
That is head coach Kirk Beebe of the Pierre Governors, back with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. KCCRradio.com.
During the summer months, residents may encounter someone at their door looking to sell a product or a service, especially with the recent storms and flooding. The Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division offers these tips. Avoid high-pressure sales tactics. Check for ID, such as a revenue license and proof of insurance. Ask for references and compare prices with local businesses. If you have questions regarding a door-to-door sale, contact the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986 or at consumerhelp@state.sd.us.
This fall, take some time to think about your future while the leaves make their way down to earth and the last sunset of summer leaves us with an autumn chill. It's time to grab the nearest foam finger and break out the face paint. Rush the stands with First Dakota National Bank and forget how to blink. Fall sports are back with jaw-dropping plays, an electric atmosphere, and epic scores. Make some noise with First Dakota National Bank. Open a new account online today at firstdakotanationalbank.com. Member FDIC.
Most of us already know that Gales Gas of Pierre is the place to call for propane. They offer an automatic fill plan so you never have to worry about running out of propane. They accept debit and credit payments or a budget payment plan to spread out the cost throughout the year so you never have surprises when you get your bill. For delivery, convenience, and great customer service, call Gales Gas at 224-5518. That's Gales Gas at 224-5518.
Look, it's no secret that owning a vehicle can cause a lot of stress, and they get a lot of wear and tear on them through every season. Graham Tire wants you to know that you can trust them with any problem that you have with your vehicle. They have fully trained ASE certified mechanics on staff ready to handle it for you. From brakes and bearings to alignments and front ends. Let their experience work for you. Over 50 years combined means you can count on them. So if it's time for a transmission flush or even a simple oil change, the only name you need to know is Graham Tire, 421 West Sioux Avenue in Pierre.
That's a clown question, bro.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
As we welcome you back to the Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Chris Fosham and Mendel Miller is Staley County girls basketball. They'll take on the Lyman Raiders tomorrow night. But last night, a tough loss for you guys against Gettysburg. Let's go back to that last night and you know, through three of the four quarters, very, very good basketball for Staley County. Had an opportunity to still win that ball game. Overall takeaway from the game last night.
There was a lot of good takeaways from the game last night. We executed the best we ever had. We talked about what percentage we execute in a game, and up until that point, I think our best was about 30 to 35%. And I think last night we were probably up to about 70% of how much we executed, but we still had that third quarter that kind of came back and bit us. So,
you know, and when you look at and throughout this course of the season, it's kind of been up and down on the offensive side of things, especially of being able to score close to 50 points and then struggling to get to the 20s. But a game like last night and how close it was, and like you said, being able to be efficient and being able to be able to run the offense and do things well. Obviously, shots will continue to fall as the season progresses.
Yeah, you know, we've come a long way. I mean, there was, you know, we're halfway into the season, but it's a new system, and everybody's learning new things that's seeing the court for us. And, you know, you just try to build on that. We've put more in and asked more of the girls and things like that, and they've done a really good job with that. So in the end, that's kind of what's most important to us, is being able to execute and being able to do what we're asking them to do, because basketball is basketball. Some nights the shots are going to go in and you're going to look like world beaters, and sometimes the shots aren't going to go in and you're going to think you're terrible. But in the end, if you're getting the shots you want, that's really all you can ask.
And on the defensive side of things too, and being able to hold Gettysburg down, under 50 points, and being able to hold some teams down under 50 points. Defensively, what have you guys seen to come along as the season has gone on so far?
A lot of it comes down to effort. But scheme-wise, the girls are starting to buy in. They're starting to understand what we're trying to do in our man-to-man defense with playing gap and limiting drives. We started running a little bit of zone, and we've been pretty effective with it, making teams shoot from outside and limiting the shots that maybe some of their better players get. But overall, it comes down to effort, and they've played a lot harder in the last couple of games.
And is that, some of that, what you guys do in practice, obviously,
but being able just for those girls to see the film and be able to see the confidence growing, are they seeing that themselves, whether it be in practice or through a game? Is that being very beneficial now as we get the halfway point of the season?
So it's funny you say they see it. So on film, Monday we came into practice and I had an 8th grader come up to me and she goes, "Chris, you'll never believe what I looked at on film this weekend." And she goes, "We look like we moved as a unit." And that's so cool to hear them say that, because we preach it all the time. You got to play defense with 5 people. And being able to see that on film, see it in the game, see it work, it means the world to us, and they're seeing it work.
Yeah, you know, the thing we keep reminding ourselves is how young we are, and we're asking girls to maybe understand basketball at a level that they probably aren't ready for just because of experience and things like that. So anytime that they can actually see it and see the result of doing the right thing, then they certainly buy into doing it more often.
You know, and one of the unique things about this season and being at the halfway point is a tough task tomorrow against the Lyman Raiders, who have beaten a Double-A team. They're undefeated. They look like, you know, it's their Class B state championship to lose right now, and you guys get them at home. And you know, the challenge of facing such a good basketball team, but a opportunity for these girls to go against a very good basketball team, and how you handle the approach of getting ready for that game tomorrow night.
So we talked about it a lot. A lot of it comes down to just being us. I think that's the message tomorrow night. Don't get caught up with who they are. Don't get caught up in the moment. Just play basketball the way that we play basketball, and they'll find victories out of that.
I mean, and how important, you know, regardless of what the score is by the end of the night tomorrow night, how important it is to be able to find some confidence against a Lyman team, because everybody talks about how good they are, and you know, you're not worried about so much who they are, you're worried about your own team, but being able to then say, look what we can do, look at the good things that we're able to do against a good basketball team and again, it's, while you're not worried about Lyman, they can still look at the schedule and all that stuff and everything they've done, that they can draw some confidence playing against a Lyman team where next week's games, you're saying, boy, this is a little bit easier to face a different team than the Lyman Raiders.
They're definitely going to bring an intensity that we haven't seen yet this year, and being able to be in a game where you see that type of ball pressure, you would sure think that makes the rest of the season look a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, they're really good. I mean, bottom line, they're really good. They have talent. They have girls that every school just doesn't have. You just can't go get those girls. So for us, like Chris said, it comes down to what we can do. If we can execute, maybe the shot doesn't go in, maybe the shot gets blocked, whatever, but if we execute what we want to do and we get the shot, then that's a win. And the more you can stack that against a good team, then the girls gain confidence. It's like, hey, this works against Lyman, it's going to work against somebody else.
You can talk with Coach Chris Fosham and Mendel Miller here as we talk about Staley County girls basketball. They'll take on the Lyman Raiders tomorrow night here at the Parkview Auditorium at home. Then you guys start to go on the road a little bit. You get Jones County next week, Tuesday, and obviously you're probably not looking down the schedule right now. You're probably looking right in front of you and who that next opponent is. But as the season now starts to move, and after tomorrow we'll move into the second half of the season, what's kind of one of those bigger keys that Staley County needs to keep building on in the second half to rack up some wins, to gain some confidence, and to be ready for postseason play?
I think one of the biggest things that you said it in your question is the girls' confidence overall, starting to believe in themselves, getting to those moments where, you know, the last 2 games we haven't panicked when we've been down 10, and we've actually got back into the game and came close to winning both of those, and believing in themselves is the biggest thing I think going forward with starting to get some wins and building some momentum going into the postseason.
Yeah, it's that growth, you know, incremental growth. Sometimes the scoreboard doesn't show it, but you're growing and getting better as a team, and the more they understand that you know, the record is what it is, but we have to we have to figure out how to close. We've had a couple of really close games. We've had a couple of games we didn't quit in that we could have quit and maybe would have earlier in the season. So recognizing that, that's a step in the right direction. And just understanding that if you play really, really hard, good things happen.
One of the things, too, and maybe it's from my perspective of watching this Staley County team, too, but I'll ask the question, too, is that it feels like once Staley County gets a win here that more wins can start to fall through. That first win, it's like seeing the first basket. You can't hit a shot. Then all of a sudden one goes in and then everything starts to pile in. That kind of feels like where Staley County is at right now, that once you can get that first one, it can be, sky's the limit, but just in general, the last half of the season, very winnable games that can go that Staley County's way.
Yeah, winning's hard to do, and you have to learn how to do it. And like you said, you finally get that shot to fall in the end of the fourth quarter, or the big free throws at the end of the third quarter. It doesn't matter when it is in the game. Once that starts to happen, I think it can snowball into a really good thing.
And this team is, again, we've mentioned it before the season. No seniors on this year's team. Everybody can return for next year. Eighth graders will be moving up to the JV varsity ranks. That you're just building another year for this team because nobody is going to graduate and everybody is able to return. And to see again, the process of it. And obviously, you want to win this year and want to get wins this year. But the process that you guys talked about at the beginning of the season. Again, you're seeing that, have to be seeing that a little bit, again, without wins and losses right now, but you're starting to see this process continue to take form and continue to move that line up.
Yeah, it's a long process. I wish it was a little shorter than it is, but it isn't. It's reality. It's a long process. But one thing that we talked about today, our leaders are starting to turn into true leaders, not only off the court, but on the court. And they're starting to embrace that role. And it's a role that they've never been asked to do. And it takes time to get there. And the younger girls see that, and they're starting to follow suit. And it's so exciting to get everybody back next year.
Yeah, I've heard coaches in the past say the best thing about playing freshmen is that they become sophomores. We're playing eighth graders. So the best thing that can happen is that they just gain that experience, and that's going to pay off down the road. But, to already see signs, and yes, progress is slow and it's never as fast as you want it to be, but to see signs from where we started with the youth that we have and what we're asking them to do, it's amazing how far they've come. Even though the result in the left-hand column or the right-hand column of the standings is not what we want, the progress is really exciting.
You can talk with Coach Fosham and Coach Miller. The Staley County girls basketball, they'll take on Lyman here at home tomorrow and then move into next week being on the road against Jones County, part of a doubleheader next week, Tuesday. Final question to wrap things up. Again, talking about the second half of the season, and I kind of mentioned it already, can ask that question, but one of those big keys to get wins as the second half of the season goes along, what is one thing, again, whether it be starting this week or whether it be starting next week when the second half truly begins, one of those biggest things for Staley County to rack up wins in the second half of the season?
I think one of the biggest things is knowing what we can do. Defensively, we've tried a couple new things now going forward, and we're starting, as coaches, I think is as important as anything for us to understand what we can do. And we've learned that we can play this type of defense in this situation. And we're not scared to call that defense out, where in the beginning of the year we didn't know what was going to happen. So we were nervous calling certain plays, certain defenses. And going forward, I think it's just knowing what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. It's a comfort level for us as well. As Chris said, we're learning as the process goes. We're learning what players can do in certain situations and what combinations can work and things like that. And as we learn and increase our abilities and increase our options, then hopefully the results follow.
Well, guys, I appreciate the time. Good talking to you guys again. We'll talk here in a couple weeks, and we'll talk somewhere one of the 2 weeks between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, because we're going to, you guys haven't done this year or yet so far, so we're going to be talking Super Bowl picks and getting your guys' picks as well in Coach's Corner. I enjoyed that, seeing what coaches are right and what coaches are wrong with their Super Bowl picks. But I appreciate the time. Good luck tomorrow against Lyman, and good luck going into the second half of the season.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for having us.
That is Coach Chris Fosham and Mendel Miller of Stanley County. We return with more Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
During the summer months, residents may encounter someone at their door looking to sell a product or a service, especially with the recent storms and flooding. The Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division offers these tips. Avoid high-pressure sales tactics. Check for ID, such as a revenue license and proof of insurance. Ask for references and compare prices with local businesses. If you have questions regarding a door-to-door sale, contact the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986 or at consumerhelp@state.sd.us.
People helping people. Have you ever wondered what the benefits are of becoming a Owyhee Federal Credit Union member? At Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we reinvest profits in you. We do this in the form of lower interest rates, higher dividends, and low to no fees. So come check us out or come in at 221 East Pleasant Drive in Pierre, because at Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we treat our members like they own the place because, well, they do. Owyhee Federal Credit Union.
At Shane's Pharmacy, your healthcare is important, and Shane wants to be the pharmacist to take care of you. Shane's Pharmacy will make sure your prescriptions are filled in a timely manner, they will answer your questions, and they will even deliver to your home or office. Call 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy, the pharmacy you know and trust. The number again is 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy in Fort Pierre, proud to support high school athletics.
Talk to you. You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
Yeah! And we welcome you back inside the KCCR studios as we wrap up another edition of Coach's Corner. I want to say thanks to Jim Wadeen, the head coach of the Owyhee Capitals, as well as also Joey Fisher, the head coach of the Stanley County Buffaloes, Kirk Bebout, the head coach of the Pierre girls basketball team, and Mendel Miller, Chris Fosham, the head coaches of the Stanley County girls basketball team, as all of those teams, besides Pierre Governor girls basketball, they will be in action here either tomorrow on Thursday or this weekend, or both, as we'll have Owyhee Capitals hockey on Capital City Rock and on YouTube at Capital City Rock Sports. But I want to thank those coaches. Don't forget, we've got the NFL on Saturday and Sunday for those playoff games, both 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. All NFL playoff games and primetime games throughout the NFL regular season are all right here on KCCR. Again, thanks to our coaches. Same time, same place next week, Wednesday, right here on KCCR, online at kccrradio.com, and available for playback anytime on YouTube at KCCR Sports.
You've been listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR, presented by the South Dakota Office of Attorney General, Division of Consumer Protection. Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com is also brought to you by Bank West, Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota, Todd's Electric, Owyhee Federal Credit Union, Shane's Pharmacy, Missouri River Dentistry, CHS River Plains, Edward Jones Financial, Thording Electric, First Dakota National Bank, Gales Gas, and Lamb Motors. Join us each Wednesday at 5:30 on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com for more Coach's Corner. This has been a special presentation of Riverfront Broadcasting Sports, Central South Dakota's sports leader.